Dave Hodges here, host of the Common Sense Show. We are the show freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. To our friends around the world, welcome to the show. We're all partners in freedom. We all serve the same God. This show is about God, family, and country. And we are trying to preserve what we have, but also, too, we've got to change a lot of people because people have gone into government to cash in, and we need to make them cash out and bring in people who will serve for a short time and then get on with their life, which is what the founding fathers envisioned. They didn't envision Harry Reid's and Mitch McConnell's and Chuck Schumer's and Nancy Pelosi's that would basically serve until they stepped into the crypt. There's no reason for this. But we are in a pretty desperate situation, and we're going to be talking about that situation today on the Common Sense Show because we are looking at a supply chain being wrecked. All the signs are there that this war is not just going to continue, it's going to increase, and it's going to put the stress on you at home. You won't recognize America in a few months if we keep going down this path. I told Kim Iverson when I was on her show, I said, we don't stop by Memorial Day. Christmas could be pretty darn miserable. And I said, the wheels are going to start coming off in July and exacerbate in August. And I've got real reasons for saying that. I'm going to share it with you in this broadcast. Now, we are really, really lucky because we can prepare if you take advantage right now. And as a result, here we are sponsored by a great product. If you can't get your medicines, you better be able to go to something natural that can help you. And so we're going to share this with you right here. And it's the good people from Nanosoma. This is the starter pack. And you've heard me tell my story. When I had strep lung linings, RSV, this did the trick when doctors said, Dave, you're not coming back from this. And I was told that literally and figuratively. And then, of course, you're back in the gym, you're working out, you're doing all the right things because your immune system has been boosted by the Nanosoma liquid spray. But you got to use the gel because the inflammation, the arthritis creeps in, and this grows pluripotent stem cells. Research studies show it. It takes differential time frames to recover. Took me 6 to 8 weeks, could take you shorter, could take you a little longer, but it does work. And then finally, the skin cream for cuts and burns. I'd be prepared every medicine cabinet in light of what's going on today and not knowing if you're going to be able to keep getting the flow of medications. Every medicine cabinet should be filled with these products. Go to iwantmyhealthback.com/Dave Hodges. iwantmyhealthback.com/Dave Hodges. Okay, let's take a look at a situation now involving the continuation of the war. And I'll get into it in the next segment how I know this war is going to continue because Ron Paul told me so, but he didn't say it directly. He just laid the circumstances for it to happen. Now, what's going to happen? If this war continues and you have the Strait of Hormuz effectively shut off, first of all, we're not going to have anyone to trade with. You know, Europe's in crisis right now, today, not next week, not next month, today. And they're scrambling to make ends meet, but that's not going to go on more than a couple of weeks at the most. So who are we going to trade with? China's pulling in its horns because they're affected by this. And you've got the rest of the Pacific Rim in trouble. Again, I ask the question, who are we going to export to? Well, there's loss of jobs. And that'll further weaken the dollar because the tax base will be down. That's the pragmatic part. Let's get into what happens physically when you don't have oil coming in. Now, just to remind you, a lot of our oil is basically sludge. It's heavy. And we don't have many refineries that can produce that. People say, well, then just build more refineries. 5 to 10 year process will not help us. We export that heavy oil to third world countries that do synthesize that oil and put it to use. We import a lot ready to go right to the pump because it's efficient. This is why the Strait of Hormuz is so critically important to the United States. Because when Trump says we produce more oil than we can use, technically he's right, but practically he's being misleading because we don't produce enough oil that we can use. So we're going to have severe shortages. As I reported about 8 days ago, the last tanker from the Middle East, leaving one day before the war started, arrived in the Gulf, and that's it. So we're living on the existing oil supply. Trump can't let the nation spend its oil reserves down to nothing to support you going to work. He can't do that. National defense would crumble. And I do agree that has to be the priority. We cannot compromise our defense. You think China and Russia would sit idly by? No, they'd be negotiating on how they're going to carve up America. So I agree with President Trump on that point. So what we're going to see initially is gas rationing, odd, even days when you can get gas. How do I know that? Well, didn't we go through that in the 70s? Do you remember that? Yeah, okay. And then can you even get it? Is it going to be available? You're going to have spot shortages, and those shortages are going to grow. Then there's no gas sold on Sunday. Okay. And then they're going to try to limit how long your trips are. And this is going to be the progression of what we're going to see. And transportation is going to have a problem. Airplane travel will be next to impossible because the airlines are already, what have you lost? Already 1,500 flights because of jet fuel prices. This is going to be a catastrophe, but it gets worse. What gets worse than a catastrophe? Another catastrophe. You need oil for the grid. All right. Now, do we have repressed technology? Even if we let out the plasma stuff, the so-called free energy, and all the stuff that's being withheld, even if we got that going, what do you think the implementation period would be? It would be years, not hours and days. You don't just flip a switch and you go from AC to DC. It's not that simple. So we're going to have severe power shortages. You're going to have planned brownouts. They're going to restrict through your smart meter, and we all have them now. They're going to restrict, how many devices you can use at the same time. Dishwasher and washing machine. Oh, we got to shut one of them down. Boom, and it's going to be done. Oh, they can do that remotely. They just tell you that in the fine print, which you've never read. So we're going to have resource availability rationing. It's going to be bad. Can you imagine being in Phoenix in the summer and it's your turn for the brownout? Okay. Or how about Minneapolis in December? Okay. So that's going to be a problem. Then finally, we get into the food supply. What do you need to transport food? Well, forget that answer. Let's go to the origination point. How do you get food out of the ground into the market? Well, first of all, you got to have diesel. You got to have tractors. If you can't get it, or it's more than 6.50 a gallon, as I've told you, that's a problem. So just getting the food to the market, which takes gasoline, and cooperative truckers that may not be working any longer if the price is too high and they can't make money. So the food supply could get strangled. This is why I always say food, water, guns, gold, ammo, natural medicine, and tools. And yes, I am wholly nonviolent. You know my spiritual beliefs. I am nonviolent, but I am not non-defense. You come to my home with bad intentions, I'll have to defend my family. That's why the food, water, guns, ammo is necessary because there's going to be people that don't prepare. They're going to come take advantage of you. And this is why you need to collaborate with your neighbors. Food, water, guns, gold, ammo, natural medicine, which we advertised in the beginning, and food. This is absolutely a no-brainer. So you look at this and you say, well, the food supply is going to be imperiled. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And then getting your medicine shipped like everything else. And you have insurance companies that won't let you get more than 90 days supply. Am I right? Sometimes it's 30 days supply. They don't care. Bottom line is everything that's shipped is in peril. And then we're going to see massive job layoffs. You're going to see more consumer problems, more economy problems. Tax base is going to decline. The relative debt's going to go up. Yeah, this is not pretty. And I know I sound like a doomsayer, but go back and take apart point by point what I've said and prove me wrong, to quote the great Charlie Kirk. Prove me wrong. I'm not wrong. I'd like to be wrong, Would you please make me wrong so I could spend more time in the gym and less time here warning you about what's coming and begging you to prepare for the good of your family? And I'm not Chicken Little with the sky falling. Those of you who know me personally know I'm a positive person, but I'm also a realist. This war was ill advised. It was fought for the benefit of a foreign country. It was made with an executive decision, period. And I'm going to get into all that in the next segment. Yeah, I spent 3 elections supporting Donald Trump, 10 years supporting Donald Trump. Didn't agree with everything he said or did. Didn't necessarily think he was the best moral human being, but I thought he was the best choice to put America back on the right track. I thought I could continue my Christian faith without interference, where I feared some other politicians might put that in jeopardy. So this is why I supported him. But now he's cutting out the heart of the economy. And this is where you get into conspiracy theories. And not every conspiracy theory is lunacy, because waiting in the wings and all the members of his science and technology board recently appointed after he fired all the rest, they are the digital people. And if the dollar goes belly up because of what's going on, well, then we're going to be going digital. That's been made clear to us. Is this the design all the time? I don't know. But there's a lot of people out there that think this. We are in a mess right now. And what's the purpose of me doing this? Not to alarm you. I don't want to send your blood pressure, to the roof. I don't want to do that at all. I'm telling you, number one, pray for discernment that you make wise choices. Number two, make sure you prep as best as your budget lets you: food, water, guns, gold, ammo, natural medicine, and tools. And if you got a gun, for goodness sake, would you please get trained so you don't do stupid things and hurt people, including yourself or your family? I wished we weren't here. Truly, I don't. I was happiest in my life when I was doing other things that I chose to do. I was thrown into this thanks to the late John McCain and his desire to get me and 300 of my neighbors off our property without compensation. And then I saw how messed up things were, and I said, I got to try to help people. Right now, you got to prepare to weather the storm of limited oil. And I just told you how to do it. I'm Dave Hodges. This is The Common Sense Show.